Not anymore, we're back. No, we see this was off last year. Just happened to have I believe there was
no angular offset. I can go this way. Probably should take this here.
Test 1, 2. Test, test.
Please, no.
Can I just go very carefully across?
That was careful.
Thank you.
Is that what you were going to do?
I was polite. Yeah, that's what I was going to do.
Yeah, you know what, though, Steve?
So what?
Okay. I don't know what they're going to do, but they're setting seats up outside with live. It should be live out here
I think my purse is under you.
Last time we were here, Dad was here in the fall, and we took him to see the show on these contested waters up off of Maine in Canada. It's a hot spot now for lobster. It's a pretty good documentary. It's not by
have a very full house tonight, so I want to let you know we have 2 seats right here in front of me if you'd like to come down and take a seat. We have 1 seat here in front of me, whoever wants to take a seat. No takers? There we go.
No.
So we're just kind of filling in where there are seats. If you see a seat available, you are welcome to take it. We've got 1 right over here in this corner. If anyone's looking for a seat, we've got 1 more over here this gentleman's pointing out. I feel like I'm Vanna White. 1 more over here in that corner. So how many? We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, about 9 people standing. So 1 more open seat there, 1 more here. 1 here right in front of my face. And that looks like about it. Looks like 1 more down in the front, 2 more down in the front next to the aisle. Okay, so fill in, and 1 more over here. I think we can seat everybody if you wanted to break up. I mean, not really break up, you know what I mean? All right, thanks so much.
Okay, so these in the front are also released. So 6 more. 6, 7, 8 down here. So please grab a seat before we turn the lights down. Might make it easier on you. Those are very welcome. Anytime. All right, well, just in the interest of time, I'll start my preamble before we start our main event. I'm Christina Cadet-Brophy. I'm the Chief Curator of the New Bedford Whaling Museum, and I want to welcome you all so much tonight. What a fantastic turnout, which is all thanks to you guys, who are going to be our primary speakers tonight, and I can't wait to see the film. So, just wanted to thank Joe McDonough. Where is Joe? Where'd you end up? There he is. So thank you so much to Joe McDonough. Joe really organized the 3 events of the Sailor Series, and it's just been such an amazing partner in making all of you come tonight and spreading the word to all the yacht clubs in the area and creating these partnerships. So thank you so much to Joe. He's been a trustee at the museum for quite some time and a very much valued member of the New Bedford Whaling Museum family. So this event, the series of events, is supported by Ruth and Hope Atkinson and in part by the Samuel Rositsky Lecture Fund. And this is in partnership with the Cruising Club of America, which Joe is an integral part of, the New Bedford Yacht Club, Beverly Yacht Club, and Tabor Academy. And I understand that Julie Salit, who's the acting head of the school, is here tonight. Where is she? So there she is. Thank you very much for sharing your students with us tonight. And this year's Sailor Series is dedicated to Ellen Howland III. I do have a little bit of note. Those of you who are young sailors, I hope that some of you got to meet Louis Howland in his lifetime. He was a fabulous sailor, an incredible author, a 4-term trustee of the museum, a dear friend, fabulous publisher. If you want to know anything about New Bedford sailing, Google his name. It's hard to spell. Llewellyn Howland, or you can, Louis as we affectionately know him, but really a true gift to this city, to this region, and to sailing. If you're interested in yacht design, look him up. He is an incredible author and has done wonderful things for that field and to all of us here at the museum. Upcoming programs I want to mention, we have a Navy Day on March 21st. The Navy actually funds a lot of our Whales Today exhibitions that you see out in the gallery where you had the reception. So we give them a day every year to thank them for their contributions to whale conservation. So that's March 21st. It's open to the public. Please come. It'll be wonderful. And our next 2 Sailor Series are April 14th, Vendée Globe Racing Solo Nonstop Around the World with Rich Wilson. And then May 12th, Yachting in Greenland with photographer Anna Vanderwall. If you haven't seen his photographs, they're absolutely exquisite, so please take a look, please come. As you can tell, we're having just record turnout for the series this year, so please book your tickets early and don't try to show up at the last minute, because it's been an unbelievable sellout this year. It's just fantastic. So tonight we're going to hear about the adventures and history of the Tabor Boy, which is part sailing training vessel, part classroom, and part lab for Tabor Academy. This last year, this 100-year-old schooner and its student crew sailed in the Marion to Bermuda race using only the stars. I just gave my husband a sextant for his birthday, so we're going to practice all winter based on all you guys have to say. And they won. We'll be hearing more about that in tonight's premiere, the documentary Celestial. Some of the crew is here tonight to share their experiences, and we have a microphone set up in the middle platform. Oh, Tina's pointing, Vanna's pointing right there in the middle. So if you have questions, we don't have enough wireless mics to run around, so please either raise your hand and yell, or go to that microphone if you have questions at the end. I find that a lot of people don't need a microphone like I do. And then I just want to mention quickly on a personal note, my parents started the Geronimo program for St. George's School, which is a big rival of the Tabor Boy. And we used to bump into them all the time in the Caribbean and the Bahamas. And we compare notes on who got cold milk recently, that was a big deal. Who had hot showers, which was never us. And who had more water in the tanks and all kinds of sort of living conditions comparisons. But it really is a truly unique experience to live on a semester at sea program, and just wonderful that Tabor Boys had such a great success over the years with their program. So I want to introduce Greg Norgen. Greg is a 1984 graduate of Tabor Academy, where he's continued to be involved and is currently president of the Tabor Alumni Council. He's a lifelong sailor from Marion and spent his childhood summers on Buzzards Bay and the junior programs at Boston Yacht Club and New Bedford Yacht Club. He and his father would race their C&C 40, which are gorgeous on Buzzard, and he now actively races keelboats and large handicap yachts. Greg has campaigned maxi yachts in the US, Europe, and the Caribbean, and has competed in 15 Newport Bermuda races over 35 years, which is quite extraordinary. He has direct ties with the Tabor Boy and was actually the tactician on the race to Bermuda. So I want to welcome Greg. Thank you so much for coming tonight, and thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you, Christina, for having us here at the New Bedford Whaling Museum to share such an exciting experience. This journey has exposed Tabor in such a great light to a much broader community, both on and off the water, and has been so inspiring to our entire Tabor constituency, both the current students and their parents, and to over 7,000 alumni. Most importantly, it has been transformative for the crew that embarked on this epic voyage, testing their seamanship, teamwork, humility, leadership, tenacity, stomachs, celestial fortitude, and their sportsmanship. I know that the entire crew feels lucky to have had the chance to participate, but they should also feel incredibly proud for doing such a great job as a team. Captain James Geil prepared this crew and led them well. I graduated before Cap's arrival at Tabor, but we bumped into each other once in a while in the summers and at every reunion when my classmates and I would join him and the crew for leisurely sails aboard Tabor Boy on Buzzards Bay. I confess that I didn't sail on the schooner when I was at Tabor, nor did I join the sailing team. Looking back, I feel like I missed out on some great opportunities. So when Cap asked if I'd join this team as tactician on the Marion Bermuda race, I had to say yes. This experience led to many new friendships and stories, and I'm so happy to be part of sharing those with you today with a fantastic group of sailors. Captain James Geil was introduced to boating at the age of 3. At 12, he built his first boat, and there's more story to that. In early '85, he was hired as a mate aboard Tabor Boy under Captain George Blazer. In the fall, he became a full-time faculty member in the Nautical Science Department. In 1987, he assumed command of Tabor Boy upon Cap Blazer's retirement. He holds a U.S. Coast Guard 500-ton license, master of steam, motor, or auxiliary sail on any ocean. While at Tabor, Captain Geil has sailed more than 75,000 miles with hundreds of student crew. In 1993, he led Tabor Boy on an historic trip through the Panama Canal. Since then, he has spent summers in Maine and more recently around Buzzards Bay, running Tabor's Orientation at Sea program, an incredible opportunity for incoming students to get to know each other, experience schooner camping, and gain a unique awareness of their surroundings. For many winters, Tabor Boy also hosted student researchers on the Research and Environmental Education Focus program in the Virgin Islands. providing a unique learning platform and a familiar home away from home. Captain Geil has sailed the schooner in almost every kind of weather, shepherding her through several gales at sea and a couple of hurricanes at anchor. Through this vast experience and quiet confidence, Cap, as he is known to his crew, has taught scores of students to love and respect the sea. Ladies and gentlemen, Cap Geil.
Thank you, Greg. Boy, it's an honor to be here, and I just first off want to thank the New Bedford Whaling Museum for presenting this opportunity to Tabor Academy. And I'd like to thank all of you for being here this evening. We're about to show a documentary film on the vessel's participation in the Marion Bermuda race. And this was just completed recently. It was produced and directed by Jack Gordon, who is Tabor class of 2017. And Jack has since made other documentaries. First, he was on Tabor's crew team, varsity crew team. So when he graduated, he made a documentary on 100 years of rowing at Tabor Academy. It was a very big success. He's also done a documentary for Northeast Maritime Institute called The Ocean Knows No Borders. So about a year ago, first off, Jack took my celestial navigation course as a junior at Tabor. So when he heard about this Marion Bermuda race and Tabor Boys' participation, particularly in the celestial navigation class, he contacted me and he said, "Hey Cap, I'd like to make a documentary of this. Can I be part of the crew?" And I said, "Well, Jack, we can make that happen." So that was just about a year ago now, and the finished product just recently came out. So this film is also being shown at several film festivals around New England, but I should point out that tonight we are going to show the whole thing. And this is going to be the first public screening of Jack Gordon's documentary. So I hope you enjoy the film. Thank you.
While we're watching this, we're going to have a Q&A afterwards, so think about some questions or things that interest you. buddy. Okay, go for the line. Yep. Left. Second. Go for the line. You're good. Heads away. Yep. Heads away, guys. Close haul. Bang. Let's go.
Up, hands me!
Hey, good door. Good go, guys. Nice job, guys. Trim in. Speed.
This is the 22nd running of the Marion Bermuda race. This is the first time that Tabor Boy has ever done a Marion Bermuda race, although she's been to Bermuda countless times. The fall before the race, Tabor Boy actually was invited to the Royal Hamilton Amateur Dinghy Club in Bermuda to formally accept a challenge by Spirit of Bermuda for the race. Bermuda race is the only ocean race that has the celestial class in it. It's the only one. Being in the celestial navigation class, we are not making any use of GPS on this trip.
Time is 15.
It's entirely by celestial navigation, as in the old days. And for that reason, we have any information available by GPS blocked off or turned off. There are 3 principal navigators on this trip, and they are the seniors who just graduated. That includes Chip Coddard, who's the XO, class of 2019, and also his 2 senior officers, Connor Cook, class of 19, and Sophia Bakatinsky, class of 19. Overall on board, we have 11 navigating by celestial and practicing their skills, and this includes alumni back to the class of 1990. All have been in Tabor Celestial Navigation course, and all I had the privilege of having in my class. Celestial Navigation at Tabor is a full-year course, which it really needs to be. It's a major. And the purpose of that is for the students to actually understand what they're doing, rather than just memorizing procedure and looking up numbers in tables. No matter how well you know celestial navigation theory and procedure, it's not until you pick up a sextant that you actually learn the technique, where the pitfalls are, where the errors come in, and how to bring it all together.
So what we have here is the marine sextant. It's a precision instrument used to measure the altitude of celestial bodies. And what that means is, what the altitude means, is the angular measurement between the horizon and the celestial body. In this case, during the day, we only have the sun to work with. Sometimes you can get the moon during the day. And at twilight, when you can see both stars and the horizon, you can use stars and take the altitude of them as well. Once you have the altitude, what you have to do is go into a series of books published. We have the Nautical Almanac, the HO229, HO249. These are all filled with data that is updated, usually annually. Data on the location of stars, both in their position over the Earth, as well as their position in the sky. And using that information and through a series of calculations, you can find your position with what's called a line of position, an LOP. So you get a line of where you could possibly be in the near area. So preferably, you get multiple lines of position, and wherever they cross, that's called a fix. That's where you are, and that's that. That's as accurate as it gets with celestial navigation, is a proper celestial fix.
Sophia, we should start getting ready to take the flight soon.
I know. That's what I... please.
That's really good.
Yeah. Let's go. I'm gonna go get a section out and start setting it.
Make sure you don't take mine. Okay. So we're doing about 170, 175. You want to try to head up pretty much as much as you can until you start lumping, and you want to keep the speed as much as possible. Right now, I've got a couple headers, so I've been able to keep like 175. But yeah, ready?
Yep. Get some socks. Nice.
Point two off. Wait, can someone mark for me?
Yeah, I can mark for you.
Okay. Don.
I'm ready with you. I should say mark.
Mark.
What do you got coming?
Alright, I got 8, or I guess 20, 18, 49 seconds.
Sophia, what's your HS?
I got 15.
Yep.
This is 40.
46 point.
0.2.
HS 1546.2.
Yep.
There you go.
Lower limb. Okay, and then Jupiter.
Lower level. Okay, you good now?
Mark.
HS.
Yeah, so 57.0.
Sweet.
What do you get me, Mark? 7 here?
Yep, I got you.
You got it.
When you are. Okay, ready? Yep.
Yep.
Mark. Alright, I have 8, 22.
16.
Alright, 22, 16. We're good. We got like 3 or 4 different sites on the booth.
Yeah, we got 2
And upper
more.
limb.
And then
Yeah.
we're waiting for Vega and Stika and
Colin.
Why don't you get Blair?
Alright.
Which one's yours, Dad?
Connor, set your section to the other left. Yeah, lines based on. That's it. Yeah.
Tell you what, man, this is fun. This is fun. This is a good time.
What are we doing right here?
So right now we are waiting for Polaris to pop up about yonder, and then we're gonna use the sextant and get our altitude on it and our height, and use that to get a fix. Yeah. So right now we're just waiting, enjoying the sunset.
Jack, you and Connor doing some reductions tonight? All right, Sophia and I can run them on our watch in the morning.
We're going to run until we have a good working fix.
Okay, great.
And then we'll probably have to get back to lunch once we're sure of the fix.
Okay. All right, we'll let you guys do that.
The first night that we got a spot-on fix was our second night.
Yep.
I remember being huddled around the table in the deck house with Cap and Jack Kirk, and Jack Kirk drawing a line, and then drawing another line. Going, all right, they meet right there. Let's see where this third one goes. And it went right through the middle. Cap just goes, wow. class, we hadn't been able to really get that one point. This was, you were here. And that was absolutely incredible. What I learned is actually of use right now. It worked, and we're going there, and we're gonna get there because we know where we are. We can do this.
All right. Okay. So it took a little while, but we got this evening's fix worked out. It's a good cross. We transferred it to the big plotting sheet here. So this is evening fix for 2024, which is 8:24 p.m. on June 16th. This is the Rome line to Bermuda from basically Buzzards Bay. And we are now sailing almost in the same direction, right towards Bermuda. So it's a distance to go we have to figure out yet, but we look to be in good shape right now.
I think we're gonna get there Tuesday evening, if not Wednesday morning.
So that is the last time, right? From starting line to finish line. Just, you know. Okay, so here's our ratings here. So this is a handicap rating, 0.844, but the Celestial adjusted to 0.819, okay? So take that, what is it, 108?
Yeah.
Times 0.819. And what is it?
88.45.
Okay.
So then divide that by 24.
So, yeah, so, no. So subtract that from 108. Well, 88. No, it's okay. I'm just,
To 108 times the thing, right?
no, well, yeah.
Yeah, so we get
That's
88.
88.45. So that would be correct the time.
Yep.
And what that saves us in hours is 108 minus
So 20 hours.
Okay, yeah.
Almost a day.
Yeah? So that's pretty sweet. As Greg was saying, you know, that's the spirit of Bermuda is. He doubts she's 20, almost a day ahead of us. Not to the minutes, because she didn't start it. Yeah, we've had fun with David Google and that's okay. Beaten by a bunch of our schools. Beaten by a bunch of our schools. So we shall see.
We shall see.
What are you able to hold?
All right, now we're going 155. I had it up to 185 a few times.
Oh, great.
We can see if I can bring her up any.
Well, 165, 170 is good numbers.
I felt most confident in doing the navigation on our last morning twilight.
Send someone, Mark.
Yeah, we'll get ready for you.
Let me know when.
It was the last proper fix that we were going to have, where we knew exactly where we were before we saw Bermuda. I'd spent the 12 to 4 watch preparing for morning twilight, writing down which stars we were going to use, where they were going to be approximately in the sky. And Sophia came on deck for her watch, and we had Jason Bland, XO 1990, on deck with us as well, and Cap was out helping out in Leland, and we were just grabbing sites left and right. We took probably 15 or 16 sites during the span of twilight, so 20 minutes or so, and we grabbed the 3 or 4 stars we thought would be good. We grabbed Venus, and then as the horizon got better, we did it again. We got more sites. We went into the deck house and had this think tank type operation. It was just 4 or 5 of us all huddled around the table, working through the sites. Everybody just grabbed a star, worked right through them, and plotted 6 of them, and we had a 4 line of position cross. And it was like a well-oiled machine. We really had it down to an art. We really knew what we were doing. And it was just awesome to see how well we were able to do it by the end.
So we just got this 0440 celestial fix with about 5 different sites that are lined up pretty well. We are 50 miles from Kitchener Shoal Light. These are all markers that warn us of the reefs off of Bermuda, which can be deadly. And then another 5 miles to St. David's, where we finish. So it should be hopefully the next 12 hours or so.
My favorite moment was actually seeing Bermuda. We had Connor climb a loft when we thought we might be close enough that he could see it. He was looking out for Gibbs Hill Lighthouse, St. David's Light on the horizon. And when he shouted land ho out on deck, there was just a big cheer. Everybody was so excited. But what it really meant was we'd gotten there. We'd gotten to the right place, and we'd done great time getting there. And we, as the navigators, had done it. There was no checking the GPS. It was entirely done off of our plotting sheets and the sites that we took and the sites we worked out and put on the chart. So that was incredibly gratifying to actually see that it had worked.
You stare now?
It's one thing to take Cap's class. It's an incredible class. It's incredibly fascinating. But to see it work, 650 miles from Marion all the way to Bermuda, to see it work was incredible, really exciting.
So here comes there's the Mills buoy right there.
Jack, line?
The other one's right in line with it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm thinking we gotta head up, yeah. Hang on. All right, Kelly, I'm going to relieve you. If you don't mind. Thank you. All right, now.
Heading up, sir?
Just a little.
Hold! $13:43.20. Taylor Boy finishes Marion Bermuda race. Write that down.
13:43.20. Good job, guys!
Well done.
Marion Bermuda finish line. This is the Tabor boy acknowledging that we've crossed the line.
This is the finish line. Thank you for your transmission. Would you please switch over to channel 27 and contact Bermuda Maritime Operations, and then return to 72 for the next hour. I want to welcome you to Bermuda, and thanks for participating in this race.
Thank you very much, race committee. We had a great time. Switching 27. Good job. Good job, Scott. Awesome. Really good. Yeah. Oh, great job. Thanks, Alan. That was awesome.
Great job. Good stuff.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Jack,
love it. Jack, great job. Oh my God. Great job, Sophia. Oh, I'm gonna crush my microphone.
Yeah.
Hi. He's always looking for you.
I'll take all in a second.
So again, I just think this is a good time to really be proud of your vessel. She did. Okay, we did our best, but she came through for us. 100-year-old workboat. Not bad. Was it under 100 hours?
Yeah, there's mine playing over right now.
Yep. Pretty cool.
So we just passed the finish line a little while ago, and celebrated a little bit. Congratulated each other on a great sail, great race. Struck all the sails, and now we're just getting everything ready for pulling into dock in Hamilton, so that we can look very presentable while we brag to Spirit of Bermuda about our win.
Spirit of Bermuda finished last time 3 days, 21 hours, and 30 minutes. But Tabor Boy elapsed times 4 days, 1 hour, 10 minutes. Difference between those two times, 3 hours and 40 minutes. They were 3 hours and 40 minutes faster than us, sooner than us. Uncorrected.
Incorrect.
Guys, we wrecked.
Celestial navigation was the only way to get around on oceans till fairly recently. The advent of electronic navigation, specifically GPS. But the value in celestial navigation comes down to really self-reliance. It's not being dependent on electronics and external sources. You're really out on the ocean on your own and able to find your position and to get to where you're going, again, all on your own. So that's a very special quality and very special ability. It's an experience of one of these students to have. And beyond that, the study of celestial navigation, especially to the extent we do it, gives students a much better understanding of the relationships between the Earth and the Sun and the Moon and the other celestial bodies. It's kind of surprising how little so many people know about that.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed that. Matt Gordon did an incredible job capturing the excitement of the race and the passion of our celestial navigators, but so much more was left on the cutting room floor. I'd like Cap to take a few minutes to introduce the whole crew, or the crew that's here tonight with us, and these guys made the event so special, the experience. Cap.
So everybody, I hope you enjoyed the film. As Greg said, Jack did an amazing job on that. And on his behalf, I'd like to thank all the organizations and individuals that helped support this effort around New England and in Bermuda as well. So this is my crew. Here are some of them. And so I'm going to introduce one of them first. Chip, come up here. So you might recognize Chip from the documentary, or maybe not. But very, very proud of Chip and the job he did. So he's at United States Merchant Marine Academy now, and he managed to get Liberty today and drove up here just for this event, so he could be here. Thank you, Chip. Okay, let's go down the line, starting with you. Christian, introduce yourself. Tell us what class you are and where you're from, and what you did on board.
Hello everyone, my name is Christian Vandermel, class of 2019 at Tabor, and I was the commissary officer, steward, and chef for the race and as well for the Tabor Boy program this summer.
Hello, I'm Louis Franio. My friends call me Finn. I am the current XO of the Tabor Boy. I was working as part engineer on the offshore trip, and I wasn't one of the main navigators, but I was using a little bit of Celestial, and it was a lot of fun. Learned a lot with these guys.
Like Cap said, I'm Chip Connard. I was the executive officer on board for the race, as well as one of the 3 principal navigators. I took Celestial with Cap my junior year. Yeah, I've lost a lot of hair. That's me up there, so you can see the difference.
I'm Cooper, Cooper Carlson, class of 2020. I'm a senior officer aboard the Tabor Boy, and engineer over the summer. I also helped navigate a little bit on the way there and a bit more on the way back. Yeah, a lot of fun.
Hi, I'm Blake Roberts. I'm class of 2021. Currently on the schooner, I am a watch officer, and over on the voyage, I was just a deckhand. So yeah.
I'm Lydia Bear. I was also a deckhand on the voyage to Bermuda. I'm class of 2021, and since Christian has graduated, I'm now the cook on board, as well as a watch officer's mate.
I'm Lauren Kirk. I'm currently a watch officer, and on the voyage I was a deckhand, currently taking Cap's Cell Nav class. It's a great course. I'm Abby Shields, class of 2021. And like Lauren, I'm taking Cap's Cell Nav class this year. I'm currently a watch officer's mate aboard Tabor Boy, and I was a deckhand on the voyage back from Bermuda. Hi, I'm Emma Holloway. I was a deckhand on the voyage, and I'm still a deckhand. I'm class of 2022, and love Cap.
All right, a couple of things. Emma was the youngest crew member on board. She just finished her freshman year at Tabor. Blake is from Nassau in the Bahamas. You didn't mention it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chip, for making the trip here. So, Cap, as most people in the audience know, there was a 100-year documentary done a few years ago about Tabor Boy. Let's not dwell on Tabor Boy's long history right now, but rather focus on the important part of that it plays in Tabor's nautical science curriculum, and it has over the last few decades. Can you tell us a little bit about how she's used today?
Sure. Tabor Boy used to be, for a lot of years, kind of a program by itself. But we've been working on integrating nautical science courses with what goes on aboard the schooner. The two naturally go hand in hand, they complement one another. So this is a direction we're trying to go with the program. And this opportunity last June was just perfect for that, it's perfect.
Can you share, maybe you and or Chip could just share how that came about, how this, using the Tabor Boy in its normal fashion came to all of a sudden entering the Bermuda race?
The summer before, well, I've been wanting to get crew offshore for quite a few years. The summer before, the crew and I, during one of the Buzzards Bay cruises, were saying, well, maybe we should offer to sail along with the Bermuda race, just accompany the fleet. It'd be a great experience, offshore time. We could be there to assist anybody that needed help. And so I put that to the Beverly Yacht Club, and they said, oh, we'd love to have you go with us, but you got to race. So I got invited to the Royal Hamilton Amateur Dinghy Club, and I'll let Chip take it from there.
So Cap and I had a really, really fun trip to Bermuda. That was in November, and we'd been invited there by the organization that runs the Spirit of Bermuda program, Bermuda's three-masted sloop. It's their tall ship. And their owner wanted to challenge us. So we had a nice dinner at the dinghy club, and they had actually made a gauntlet. And, made of Halloween costume type stuff, but they threw down the gauntlet right after dinner. I mean, literally took the gauntlet, threw it down on the ground, and said, we challenge you to race. So we picked up the gauntlet, and some banter started back and forth, and they started telling us, well, we'll give you a 2-day handicap or something like that. You guys are so darn slow. So they were messing with us for a little bit, so I said, okay, well, I hope you'll enjoy being beaten by a bunch of high schoolers. So that was well received at the dinner, and we ran with that all the way to Bermuda and told that right to their faces.
I'll direct this question at Cap and Chip. In preparing for a race like this, there's a lot of work to do to get a vessel ready. But Cap, what was it like getting a group of students ready, a crew that had never done something like this before?
Well, the opportunity was extremely valuable, but first and foremost is the safety of the kids. So a lot went into the preparation last spring, and just drills and drills and drills out on Buzzards Bay, under sail, sail changes, rapid sail reduction, tacking, heaving to, man overboard drills, and just on and on. We just every afternoon, we just did as much as we could. In addition to that, we had onshore training, we had flare training with BYC and the harbor master. We did firefighting training. We did damage control training with one of the Coast Guard's damage control trainers. And just lots of preparation in the classroom and buying the correct gear, making sure all the students were required to have inflatable life jackets, type 5s, with the personal locators and all this, and So a lot of thought and preparation went into that chip on tube.
Chip, if you can also just share, some special moments or things that stuck out as being, unique, identifying experiences in that whole training process, both on the water, off the water, and in the water.
In getting ready for the race?
Yeah.
Well, we had a lot of prep to do. We sail almost every afternoon in the fall and spring during the school year with our student crew. So there was a lot. We knew how to sail the schooner, but there's a lot more that goes into it for being offshore, and a lot more maneuvering under sail, a lot more drills that we had to get done, a lot more equipment that we weren't so experienced with that we had to work with. To be perfectly honest, some of it was pretty chaotic all spring. I mean, all of a sudden it was, we're racing, we gotta get ready for it, we gotta do it. And with a crew that was very young, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was a very young crew. We just graduated, a lot of experienced people, so just every afternoon we were on the water, just doing these hectic maneuvers. They were going terribly at first, all right? I mean, we would get halfway through trying to reduce sail, or reef the main, and we just have to stop and take a minute and take a new look at what we're doing, because things just weren't going well at first, but we eventually got it down, and we had a lot of fun experiences in the water. We tested out our fancy inflatable life jackets and jumped in with those, let them explode and everything, and we jumped in without the life jackets to see how much you need them. The Coast Guard has this little trailer that they bring into us that is filled with holes and cracks and pipes to simulate damage control. So we'd have a couple of these guys jump up in the trailer, and all of a sudden there'd just be water spurting out of a rubber hose, and you'd have duct tape and pieces of wood and string, and you had to figure it out and stop the flow. So we had a lot of fun doing all kinds of different things we hadn't done before. It was chaotic, especially the sailing, but we had it down by the time the race came around, so it worked out fine in the end.
Great. Finn, since you were kind of prepping for your next role as XO, what were some of your apprehensions about going out to sea overnight on a voyage like this for 4 or 5 days with a bunch of people who had never done it before? What were some of your apprehensions, and what were you concerned about?
Well, I guess in becoming XO, or going into XO, I had to take a step back from the normal crew. I had to look at more spatial awareness, what was going on around us. Since I was doing CellNav, and my watch didn't line up with either the sunrise or the sunset, I was staying up a lot later and getting up earlier. So that gave me time to, when other people were switching in between watch, take a step back, watch what was going on. And those skills led me to the spring, where I'm sitting in the helm with Cap, and instead of, when I see a problem, going and getting hands-on myself, I show someone else to do it.
So you're calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah. And it's not always easy, because you see someone, their fingers are getting too close to a winch, and all sorts of things.
Emma, this being your first year on the crew, you must have been feeling some sort of nervousness, concerns. What were you thinking?
I was very honored to be on the crew. The crew is definitely family, and it was really amazing to be invited to be part of this family. I was totally nervous, totally. There was a lot of preparation for the race, and I think we all did really well, like working together, and the whole thing was just probably the most amazing thing I've done in my lifetime.
Super. Christian, you had a tall order. A lot of people in the audience here have gone cruising with 4 or 5 people and had to provision for a long weekend. But you were cooking for 23, provisioning and cooking for 23 mouths. Yeah. Tell us what that was like. How'd you get that job in the first place? And what was it like, both just provisioning for it and then offshore in those conditions?
All right, so my first year on board as the cook it was the summer of 2017, And I'd applied with CAP. I'd been on board for that spring leading up to the summer. And I didn't receive any formal training for cooking on the boat. I said in my application that I had cooked for 5 or 10 people at home every once in a while, and I know how to cook. But there was no training, and I got on board. It was literally trial by fire. And I mean actual fire, because I mean, Chip can attest to this. My first dinner was 2 hours late and burned. So I really had to learn, I had to teach myself how to organize, how to manage my time, how to multitask. And it took a few weeks for me to get it down, but going into the Married to Bermuda race, I had done the job for 3 years. I mean, they tell me that I'm an okay cook, so I did my best. It was a lot. It takes a lot of preparation for at least for just 1 week to provision the boat. I have to cook 3 meals a day for 5 days in a row for a crew of 24. So it takes a lot of preparation to get all the ingredients that I need and plan out all the meals. And then, but just for the race, it wasn't much different. I'd done this all before, so it was a very interesting experience to have to cook literally offshore. Thank God we were on a starboard tack the entire time, because if we were on a port tack, I wouldn't have been able to open my oven. That's as simple as that.
Thanks, Christian. Lauren, I've done, I don't know, probably over a dozen of these races with my dad on board a boat, and it's always over Father's Day weekend, so it's pretty special. But what was it like sailing with your brother on the boat, who happens to be here tonight? Jack, say hi.
That was a lot of fun. At times, pretty chaotic. There would be times where we were chasing each other around a bit when it got in lighter winds, and it was fun though. We got along pretty well on the ship, better than we do at home.
I'll open this up to everyone. What was it like being underway around the clock, adapting to watches, which you hadn't done before, and just doing that offshore? Anyone want to jump in on that? Cooper.
So I didn't find it terribly difficult. We had pretty easy watches, I think, 4 hours on, 8 hours off, so it wasn't too bad. I did have a little trouble sleeping the first couple nights. I was all the way in the front of folks, so the very bow of the boat, so I was moving up and down a lot. But other than that, I don't know, it wasn't too hard adjusting. Yeah, for me at least.
Anybody else? Lydia?
I thought it was fun. I don't know. I had the easy watch. I was 8 to 12 a.m. and p.m. So I would get up, I would help Christian cook dinner, then I would go on a watch, and I'd go to sleep at like 12:15 in the morning, so that was not awful. And then I'd wake up, help with breakfast setup, have breakfast, then go on watch. And then I had from noon until almost like 7, just completely free. So I had it really easy compared to most people. So I could like take a nap, help other people with galley cleanup and such. It was just a good time.
What were any of your favorite experience on the whole trip, the whole race?
I really loved cooking with Christian. I learned a lot, and we had a really fun time.
That could be a podcast, I think.
I really loved being on helm. That was my favorite part of just every watch, and just sailing by the wind rather than the compass was just my favorite thing.
I have a question for you all. How many of you have been offshore? Now, how many of you have gotten seasick?
Liars, come on, more hands up.
Completely different experience. You had the people, I remember the first person to get seasick. Blake got
Boy, the XO is picking on his crew.
For some of us, the first night was a lot of fun. And you know, a beautiful wind, beautiful sail, beautiful night. And then for others, it was a lot of staring into a head or a bucket. Let's let Blake talk about that later.
So I couldn't stand watch sometimes. I would try my best. Sometimes Leland France, he's not here today, but sometimes he'd come down, he'd tell me to get up on deck, and I'd be like, I can't go up on deck. He's like, but you're gonna miss the sunrise. And I'm like, I don't care about the sunrise. Or he'd be saying they're gonna miss the sunset. I'm like, I still don't care about that one either. And then I'd eventually get on deck and then missing the sunrise and sunset, so it didn't really matter to me. But, I mean, not like eating anything for a good 2 days, that was okay. I'm pretty sure I lost 10 pounds.
As your bunkmate, gotta say, I'm glad you never missed the bucket.
So Finn, now that you're in charge as the XO, I know Tabor Boy's been invited to do the Newport Bermuda race this June. If that becomes a reality, or if there's some other offshore race in the near future, what would you do differently than Cap and Chip to get ready? Tread lightly.
Well, we have a lot of new crew this year. We had, how many seniors graduate last year? 7 seniors graduate last year. So there was a big jump in experience. While keeping the chain of command on board, I do think to have a successful race, we will all need to train equally hard together. So everybody will need to do as much, to learn as many skills as possible. Also with possible new captain coming in, we will need everybody to work together.
Super, thanks. Let's open it up to the audience. Anyone have questions they want to ask? There's a microphone there. If you want to yell, I'll repeat the question.
How and by whom was the aerial photography done?
The question was how and by whom was the aerial photography done? Let me just make a comment here. One of the questions that I'm skipping over to save some time is, Cap, I realize you were in command and certainly have more experience than everyone else combined. However, is it true that you were outranked by an intergalactic commander drone pilot that was masquerading as a video journalist aboard Tabor Boy? Yes. So Jack Gordon, our videographer, we had a drone, and there was actually we almost lost the drone and all its footage. Christian, you want to tell that story?
Yeah, sure. So was it the second night or the first night?
Second night.
It was the second night. That beautiful sunset with the footage of circling the Tabor Boy from the air. Jack had his drone out, and he got all the shots, and he was trying to bring it back in for a landing. And he kept coming in close, but so you can't land it on the moving boat, and we're also keeling over, so someone has to catch the thing. So he comes in and he's trying to land it in my hand. I'm leaning out over the back of the boat. I think someone was holding on to my life vest because I was standing in our little small boat, just reaching out over the water. And he tried multiple times, but he kept missing. So it came down to he had about a minute left of battery power. And he's like, all right, Christian, I'm just gonna fly it into the boat, catch it if you can, because this thing is thousands of dollars. It's a very expensive piece of equipment. So he comes in, he's aiming for the boat, and I somehow grabbed it out of the air with probably about a minute left of battery. Thank God we got that back.
Thank God you did, because that video footage was awesome.
One more thing.
Yeah.
I've seen 2 drones go in the water. That's a lot of money.
Any other questions?
I'm Chip's mother.
Hi, Mom.
I have to say that I understand there was a rather exciting evening on your way back from Bermuda. Can you tell us about that?
Can someone talk about the exciting evening on the trip back from Bermuda?
So I was on the 12 to 4 watch on both trips. And at about 11:30 in the middle of the night, we're in the middle of the Gulf Stream in a pretty high sea. Christian comes running through the whole below deck space, screaming, "Get up, get up, get up, everybody get up." And I sat up. I said, "What's going on?" He says, "Ribcraft is hanging off the stern." Ribcraft being the inflatable boat that we have on the davits. So I woke up and I threw on a pair of shorts and my life jacket, ran up there, and that inflatable was hanging by one davit, vertical off the stern, getting smashed around. And about 30 seconds after I got on deck, the second metal davit just wrenched right off. And I mean, the boat just went right in the water, and it's pitch black offshore in a big sea. And I don't even know how somebody managed to get a hold of it. But yeah, okay, Christian grabbed it with the boat hook. The only thing holding that inflatable to the schooner was Christian with a boat hook. And we managed to get it alongside and spent probably half an hour just working with the davits on the starboard side of the schooner that are made for a smaller boat. And the pulleys that we used to lift the boat weren't strong enough to lift this one. So we essentially had to rig up multiple halyards to different points and just lift it up bit by bit. And oh my, everybody was on deck. We had to get everyone on deck. This was an emergency. You could barely see a thing. It was really hectic, and there were a lot of pretty scary moments with Leland France, who was senior officer, class of 2018. I mean, he had to jump into the boat a couple of times when we were barely holding onto it ourselves. So if we'd gotten separated, he would have been stuck on the inflatable with us not being able to see him. And there were a lot of scary moments, but we managed to get it worked out. And as I know, it still hangs on the side of the schooner, right? We managed to get the davits back in the boat, but it was a mess. It really was.
Any other questions? Yeah.
What was your first reaction when you saw a competitor almost ran down there in photography boat?
Anyone want to take that?
You might want to answer that, Greg.
So, I'm sorry. So the question was, we had a very exciting start where Spirit of Bermuda was playing games with us, trying to push us down and get us out of their way, and they didn't have any rights. And they realized that when we mentioned it to them a few times, pretty emphatically. So they sped up and went as fast as they could to get in front of us. We were lining up for a perfect start, and they were just kind of zigzagging, trying to figure out how to get out of our way so they weren't going to get in trouble. And that ultimately ended up in them almost hitting a spectator boat, a camera boat of some kind that wasn't supposed to be there anyways. But we avoided that boat, so they could have easily avoided it. But they ended up going outside of the starting line and not actually legally starting. So anyone else want to comment on that? I felt great about it. Because we had a perfect start, and they were crazy.
Yeah, I actually saw that from the bow of Tabor Boy. I was grabbing on right at the bow in the sea spray. It was an incredible start, but I saw them barreling towards this boat, and the motorboat went like full reverse. They missed the boat. It was very, very close. I was freaking out when it was all set to happen.
Before we go on, I just want to mention something in relation to Blake's trials with seasickness. Jack Gordon, who made that documentary and filmed the whole race, was terribly seasick the whole time. Terribly seasick. He did not sleep the first night. He was throwing up everywhere. Below decks, it was terrible. That poor guy had an awful trip, and he still managed to film what you just watched. So it's quite incredible.
Any other questions? Yeah. Here.
Did any of you smell Bermuda before you ever saw it?
Did anybody smell Bermuda before we saw it? No. There was a pretty high vantage point up the rig, so we were pretty far away when we actually saw it. So I don't think we would have smelled it. Yeah?
So I found the celestial navigation piece of this fascinating as someone who's never held a sextant. And I'm just curious if any of you, whether you articulated out loud or felt it inside, being so far offshore, ever had this moment of, is this actually going to work? And are we going to get where we're going? Or if you had such confidence the whole time that you knew where you were headed?
No matter how much Cap told us that it was working and that our fixes were good, I really didn't quite believe. We knew where we were. I mean, I didn't believe it until we saw Bermuda, and I mentioned that in the video there. It was this huge wave of disbelief that we'd actually gotten there. We were right where we wanted to be, right where we needed to be. We'd done it quickly. We'd made the race in good time. No matter the great fixes, I mean, we were doing it really well. I knew that, doing it really well, but I didn't think we actually knew where we were.
And we were allowed to turn on the nav, on the GPS about 50 miles out, and the whole crew said, let's not do it. We want to sail the entire way celestial, so we did. Any other questions?
Yes, I wanted to ask you about the experience you did on the trip. How did you do that?
So how was your experience on the trip?
I'd say my favorite experience on the trip was I was on the 12 to 400 watch, and just being on bow watch in the middle of the night with a million stars and nothing else. And you're just kind of sitting there and you're like, is this real? Like, is this really happening? And it was amazing. It was really amazing.
I wasn't on a night watch, so I would stay up for Charlie watch just to look at the stars. And there was one point, I think for an hour, I was just staring at something that looked like a fox to me, and it was just the best time.
So on the way there, it was really clear with a huge moon. So we didn't even need headlamps when we were on deck because you could basically see everything. But on the way back, there was almost no moon, if any at all. So all you could see were stars, and it was completely dark, it was completely gorgeous. And when you're on bow watch late at night for half an hour to an hour and a half at a time, and you're just looking at the stars or at the moon, and you are with one or two other of your crew members, and you just have this amazing bond with them because of it. It's amazing.
Anyone else? Yeah.
The conditions looked ideal on the journey down. What was the wind and your average speed?
So the conditions were ideal, no question. It was the most beautiful Bermuda race I've ever done. And when you're racing Celestial, it was even more beautiful because we didn't have a cloud any of the days. We were close haul the entire way. We did about 8 or 10 tacks out of Buzzards Bay, but the minute we turned Cuttyhunk, it was a straight shot, and we were up and down 10, 15, 20 degrees, staying close haul, but luckily the wind shifted when we needed to, and we made it right to the finish line. We probably averaged about, what do you think, Cap, 6 knots? 6.5? But our low was probably 5, and our high was 11.5, is that right?
No, I don't think we got that.
Not that fast. 10.5, 11. Anyone else?
How many records did you set?
How many records did we set? We set one for Tabor Boy. I don't know. I don't know what the records are on the Bermuda race for a 92-foot schooner. Yes?
Are there any upgrades being done to the boat this winter?
Any upgrades being done to the boat?
No real upgrades, it's more winter maintenance. Got a new water maker on board. We're replacing the steering gear rams on the hydraulic steering and a few other needed repairs. but it's fairly quiet this winter. And we hope to have the schooner, sailing very quickly at the end of spring break.
Do you want to talk about the big project that would be happening? The deck house?
Yeah, one of the big projects on the list right now, which really needs doing, is refurbishment of the deck house. The deck house that you see was not original to the vessel. It was added on in 1950, and its construction is no match for that of the rest of the vessel. So it's quite old already, and so it definitely needs some work. So we're hoping to get that done next winter.
Anybody else? Yeah.
How was it going through the Gulf Stream?
How was the Gulf Stream? Who wants to answer that?
Well, the night watch went from freezing cold to really hot. Going through the stream itself was fine. I think on the way down, the current was pushing us. Is that right, Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was benefiting us the whole time. I personally didn't notice anything particularly different other than the distinct temperature change. I mean, when we were north of the Gulf Stream sleeping at night, I was wrapped up and wearing a fleece, wrapped up in blankets. And the rest of the trip, under the stream and towards Bermuda, it was actually difficult to sleep because it was just so hot below decks.
And there's no AC.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Can you speak about the actual process that you students go through to gain access and a berth on board? Is there more interest by the student body, or is it supply or demand? How difficult is it for all of you to become an active member of the crew to race to Bermuda?
So the question is, how do you get on Tabor Boy?
Well, at Tabor, usually the first student experience you have is summer orientation, and usually about half of the incoming freshman class does that program. But to really be a part of the crew, you can sail in the fall and spring, so you can actually do it as your sport in the afternoon. And to be a part of the Bermuda crew, it was really selected. It's those people who put in that extra effort. It's those people who had the experience. I mean, Emma was the only rising sophomore, just finished her freshman year when she did the race. So the more years you have on board, more experience, that all helps. It's really, you're selected based on who CAP and the XO choose. Usually that's how we did it going through the winter. But anybody can do the program, but to do a trip like this, there are only a limited number of spots that we can do, and especially with adults coming on board for the race, we had to cut down, but it was selected, really.
Chris?
What does an aging alumni have to be
Right, Tabor Boy in
So, Cap, with looking back at over 30 years of teaching so many officers and students, if you were to just focus back on maybe one or two things that either you really kind of see as being core characteristics and what you try to teach them, or looking back kind of what they pull from you over that time period?
I guess of course I'm there to teach them seamanship and how to sail a schooner and how to navigate and everything that goes along with that. But the bigger lesson is to put responsibility on their shoulders and see what they do with that responsibility, and to teach them values, good judgment, teach them to be honest and reliable, and to make good decisions about things. And I was mentioning to someone just today that these kids want to be trusted. They want their responsibility. And so on one hand, people tell students this age, you're not old enough, you're not old enough for this, you're not old enough for that, while at the same time telling them to grow up. So what Tabor Boy program gives them is the opportunity to grow up and to actually be in adult positions on board, which they are. I mean, most of the sailing I've ever done on Tabor Boy has been with only the student crew. It's just me and the students. You know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trips, whether they're day sails or longer trips. And for over 30 years, I've relied on these guys and girls, okay? And they've been reliable. So I think that's one of the most valuable, if not the most valuable aspects of the program.
I think that's a great note to end on. I want to thank everyone for coming, the Whaling Museum for having us here to tell some stories about star hopping our way to paradise aboard Tabor Boy. A huge thank you to Jack Gordon for what he did for allowing us to debut his film Celestial, and thanks to Cap and the crew for sharing such a great experience.
Thank you all so much for being here tonight, and for the crew for sharing their extraordinary story. Very proud to hear all about your trip, and Cap and Greg, thank you very much. And please sign up for our next Sailor Series, which is April 14th on the Bendy Globe Racing Solo Nonstop Around the World with Rich Wilson. So thank you all for being here tonight. Thanks to all of you and to Tabor.